Chris is my pal, has been for many, many decades. And it's really nice to have somebody in there who you actually know, because you watch them and you think, wow, one, I've been there, and two, I know how he feels, and three, I'm a bit worried because, he used to be a big guy and now he's wasting away.
Hello, welcome back to Jungle Confidential. Today, I've got 2011 contestant, Pat Sharp. Morning, Pat. How are you?
Hi, Katie. I'm good. You?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Last night, we saw the food issue become a real issue last night. Now, obviously, Chris Moyles hasn't been the best contestant in terms of his Bush Tucker trials, has he? He's not exactly brought home the stars, which has meant, that the food has been in very small quantities. I mean, it's becoming a problem for them, isn't it?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, it does affect everybody, Katie. We don't get food. I mean, Chris is my pal, has been for many, many decades. And it's really nice to have somebody in there who you actually know, because you watch them and you think, wow, one, I've been there, and two, I know how he feels, and three, I'm a bit worried because, he used to be a big guy and now he's wasting away. He's skinny anyway, as you know, these days. He's lost a lot of weight. But for everybody there, people will get tetchy and they don't have food. And that's what starts people off to perhaps say things that they perhaps wouldn't have said if they'd had a big meal. Because with a big meal and a few drinks, probably just be going, oh, this is great, isn't it? Oh, we're having a good time. But they're starving, and they're starving. They're certainly hungry anyway. All I remember is that I lost about 1.5 stone in there, and I'm a pretty slim guy anyway. So it was, I came out, I was moving around the shower to get afterwards. So it was that bad. But I think that when you don't get the food, the big issue is that you will get a little bit stroppy with people because you are just not feeling great in yourself.
And it is the cause of some arguments. I mean, this year they do try. I mean, there's been a few issues, obviously, particularly between Boy George and Matt Hancock, which we'll come to later. But they are quite a happy camp, aren't they? I mean, in previous years, there's been many fallouts. With approaching day 12, there's been a lot of rowing up until now. But I really see this now as things are going to turn. I mean, people are getting hangry, aren't they? You said you lost 1.5 stone. Just how hungry do you get? I mean, to me, it sounds awful. I mean, that small amount of food every day, it is so aggy.
Well, you don't only get hungry, you actually get, I suppose in a way, bored of even the food that you do get, because it's really not tasty. There is no flavoring of any kind. So you just get on with it, and you're just chewing something in the end in the hope that it will go into your stomach and make you feel all right. But it's not dangerous to the amount of food you get. As long as you've got water, obviously you'll be okay. But you will lose weight in there. Everybody will lose weight. Everybody does lose weight. But it's a situation which you just have to live with, because people always say to me, whenever they say, oh, you did jungle, didn't you? And I go, yeah. They go, so did you get pizzas given to you from behind the trees? That's what they say. Everybody says that. And you go, no, you don't get anything. And even what you do get isn't great, and it's not tasty. There's nothing delicious at all to eat for days or weeks, depending on how long you're in there.
I mean, wasn't it Harry Redknapp that said he thought that they'd be giving you bacon sandwiches behind the scenes, and he was quite surprised when he got there and they didn't? I mean, it seems a little bit silly of him to think that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think a number of people probably thought you'd get help. I think at one point, and I'm sure I'm not breaking any rules here of the show by saying this, but at one point I was given a Barocca in my water to put into it to actually sort of pep me up a little bit, because I was really, really fading. And there were people who were a lot stronger than me in my year who had issues where at times a doctor or a med of some kind had to be called in to check them over, because they were fading. They were dehydrated and they were having problems, and there is issues. And that's why when you go and do one of those daytime trials, or you go and do even one of the Bush Tucker trials, it's not like you see it on the TV where you suddenly say, well, off you go, and they walk across the bridge, and then you see them walking into the clearing and there's Ant and Dec. I can remember walking for a good 45, 50 minutes to get to where I had to go. And even then, had to wait probably another half an hour, an hour and a half after that before I started doing the trial, by which time you've got no energy at all, and it's really difficult to complete the trials. Remember, if you were in tip-top shape and had had a good breakfast and went and did one of these trials and it was indoors and the conditions were right, you'd probably do a lot better than you are there, because you are actually, you're run down. It's tiring. It's tiring doing nothing a lot of the time as well.
And I think that's something that the viewers don't appreciate, isn't it? That those bush tucker trials do take up your whole day. I mean, I have to say, I really wonder why anyone does this show. It sounds absolutely horrendous. Now, we saw Chris come back last night, 1 star. I mean, he really struggled, didn't he? That task was awful. When somebody comes back with 1 star, or not many stars, the rest of the camp are obviously very nice, and they like Chris a lot, don't they? They really, really like him. But surely there's part of you that's like, oh no, really? There must be, is it a real crestfallen moment when that happens?
Well, I suppose inside, certainly Owen just feels even more hungry than he was beforehand, because he needs to feed that super body of his. But in general, you just have to get on with it, and that's the problem. If you're not getting any food and you're having to share that small fish, which I think Owen thought was a salmon, which is extremely strong.
Oh, bless Owen. He's my favourite, but he's a little bit, a little bit lacking, isn't he?
Lacking, that's a good way of putting it. At the end of the day, you just get on with it, and you will be hungry, and your stomach will make some noise during the day, and you'll have to look forward to maybe one of those treats. And I can remember, going on a dingo dollar challenge of some kind, as it was during the day, not an actual trial, and coming back with some cupcakes and hot chocolate and things like that. And in a way, that doesn't do you any favors, because it gives you a taste of the real world that you're used to, and it knocks you back a bit. So you're better off just eating the awful food, because there is no good food. There is no good taste, I don't think. I mean, mind you, I have to say, sometimes people in this one have been saying, oh, wow, that dinner was delicious. That was so tasty. I think you learn to expect less, because you're not actually, you haven't got a fridge, and you're not, able to just go and grab an apple or a banana or a piece of cake. There is just none of that. Nothing. So you're grateful for everything, and even the rice tastes okay, because that's what you're getting, and that's what you're getting.
I guess your standards dropped, don't they? So on to other domestic matters. There was a bit of a to-do, wasn't there, over a hammock last night? I mean, those hammocks do look pretty uncomfortable. I mean, did you sleep in a hammock? I mean, was it, or did you nab yourself a bed? How uncomfortable are they?
I tried a hammock. It was really uncomfortable. I thought, there's no way I can sleep in this. And so I asked if I could have a bed, and everybody said, yeah, you can have one if you want. And then people just adapted and did what they did. So arguing about not sleeping in the RV and stuff, very odd, isn't it? Because it seems like a great opportunity. The only thing I do find a bit odd about the RV is that it's a bit like being in one of those hotels where you can't open the windows. And I'm guessing there's no air conditioning in that RV. So you're stuck inside a box in a jungle, which is not cold. And at night, you probably, you like to have the window open a bit and get a bit of fresh air, don't you? But they don't seem to do that. They seem to lock themselves in.
Do you think that perhaps they don't want to sleep in the RV because Matt's in there?
Who knows? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I'm not there, and this is not my year and not my turn. I had my people, they had me, and either way, whoever's in the jungle must always realize, whether they're Matt or whether there's somebody with Matt or whether there's somebody from the first year when my pal Tony Burn did it and won it. At the end of the day, you are one of a very elite crew of not many people who've had the privilege of doing that, and it really is a privilege. If there's a noise of some kind from an animal, and you wake up at night and you hear like a mad noise, and you sort of wake up, open one eye, and think, wow, am I really here? And you might look up, and if you, as you look up, you might see like a camera suddenly go like, and start pointing at you, and you'll think, yep, that's watching me. I am here.
Indeed. Now, when you were in the jungle, you totally spoke your mind, didn't you? You very much were you. You didn't try to be something you're not. And I think when people do try to be something they're not, it doesn't end well, does it? So somebody this year who definitely is being himself is Boy George. Last night we saw him. He was really quite upset, wasn't he, that Scarlett asked him about the incident where he went to prison for handcuffing a man. He was very open about the fact that he thought that Scarlett had overstepped the mark. However, he's been grilling Matt Hancock over whatever he likes and lambasting him for not answering any questions that he wants answered. I mean, do you think Boy George is winning friends or not?
It's difficult to say because I'm not there and neither are you, so we can't actually judge that. But from watching it, I think that if, as you say, he wants to find out something from Matt about what went on and what did go on with the government and COVID and things like that, then I suppose what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So people should ask him as well. And that's what that show's all about. But what we have to remember is, and it's a really good point for anyone who's listening to this now, is that we see probably 40 minutes, including all the trials of what goes on. You probably see 7 or 8 minutes of actual chit chat of what's gone on over a 24-hour period. So 7 or 8 minutes leaves 23 hours, 52 minutes of what you don't see. So who knows what's been going on? Who knows what's been said? We don't, because we're not seeing it all. That's what hits the cutting room floor. But if you don't make the edit, and as you say, if you don't get involved, you don't make the storyline. And if you don't make the storyline, you're not in the show. And if you're not in the show, they'll just see you sitting on a log and then they'll go, well, she's not doing much. We'll vote them out. So you're much better to be involved. And then you're on the telly and you're enjoying it and you're embracing what you're there for, which is to have a bit of fun, enjoy every minute of it. It's such an incredible experience. I loved doing it. It was fantastic. One of the best things I've ever done in my life. Loved it.
So your friend Chris, were you surprised to see that he's doing it? I mean, as you say, he's lost a lot of weight and he's in danger of looking even skinnier. But I think in terms of his decision to do it, I mean, I was quite surprised, to be honest with you, from, my dealings with him over the years.
Yeah, well, I think Chris has always said he won't do it, especially when he was doing Radio 1 and everything. And Ant and Dec were always, nagging him to do it because he was so high profile. And he said, nah, it's not for me. And I think he really meant it wasn't for him because, as you can probably see, some parts of it he's not enjoying. Certainly when he gets on a trial and thing, he finds that quite difficult. It's not really his thing. He's perhaps not the most outdoorsy, adventurous guy and likes his home comforts and does his job and gets up early. He's very good at what he does. And then he probably wouldn't go climbing up some sort of, well, mind you, he climbed Kilimanjaro. So there you go.
Did, yeah.
Well, just seeing Chris doing these trials and stuff makes me think that perhaps that's why he didn't want to do it and said he didn't want to do it. But he's such a nice man. He's such a pleasant man. He's very kind, very caring, very considerate, and he's very amusing in many ways. So it's great to see someone in there. And I hope he gets more trials, because I think as he gets more, as I did, you kind of think to yourself, you've got to do well. I did really well with my trials. I got lots of stars, sometimes a full house every time I did something, because I knew that if I didn't, people would just think, nah, you're a bit rubbish, and you've just got to do it, because there's no point in doing the show unless you give it a go. You've got to get your best shot. Now, Chris didn't get many stars. He only came home with 1. But when you watched it, you saw he gave it his best shot. He did as well as he could do. That's what it's all about. Some people will do really well. Other people won't do as well. Some people won't do any trials because they just won't get voted for them. And yet they might have been really good. Just the same as there'll be musicians out there who were really good in the 60s but didn't get to become Paul McCartney, because not everyone gets a crack. So that's the way it works. And Chris is good.
I am surprised that Mike Tindall, we haven't really seen, I don't feel like we've seen his full potential, have we? Apart from his very, very tiny swimming trunks that he seems to have a collection of, it's kind of no one's really talking about him, which I'm really surprised about, because he was a clear favourite to win before the show started. I just wonder why we're not seeing much of him. Obviously we're not there, as neither of us are there, but I am surprised that we're not seeing more of him. Are you?
we're not seeing much of him simply because people have realized that anything that gets thrown at him, he's just going to go, yeah, not a problem. Here we go. And he's just going to do it. He's going to take everything on board and everything's going to be so easy for him to deal with. He is a very, very, he's a clever man. He's a strong man. He's nothing phases him. You could see that from the word go when he had to get underneath that boat that was upside down, you know, that little. He just went straight in there and went, yeah. Oh, there's a spider. Yeah. Flick that one off my shoulder. Let's get on with it. That's what I've got to do. He's a big, tough rugby player. And, he's also in the royal family. So I guess he just gets on with it and does what needs to be done. So people are thinking, well, I'm not going to vote for him to do something because he's going to do it in breeze. They want to see people who suffer. In my year, they gave endless trials to Sunita because, she panicked. The word, I went in with Sunita, as the sort of the two people like Matt and Sean who have gone in, afterwards. And I went in, and the first night I was in a cave with Sunita, and she stood up all night, didn't go to sleep, and was terrified of all the things we're putting in this cave, and she just wouldn't go to sleep. She stood up. I went straight to sleep in the corner and snored.
Yeah, well, so Sunita came on the other day actually, and she said, I mean, God knows why she did the show. She said she was scared of everything, but you're right. She would have made good television, and that's why people keep voting. And I think that's as well why people got bored of voting Matt Hancock for trials, but wasn't it? Because he did just get on with it.
He's good. He is good. He got on with it, and he did what it was asked of him, and he tried his best. And it's a strange thing that it's like people want to see people suffer on it, but they're not really suffering. They're being paid some money, and they're in the warmth. We're in the rain and the cold, and you just get on with it, and you're on telly every night. It's a nice thing to do, and I don't think there's too much suffering to be done. It's just part of the show that you've signed up to do, so you know that you're going to get involved. Unless, of course, as you say, with Mike Tyndall and his full potential, as you said, the only full potential we've all seen is what's in his swimming trunks. So there you go.
I mean, he's very buff. He does his press ups, doesn't he, every morning? Why do people go on there? I mean, obviously, there's the obvious money. Obviously, let's be frank, the money's quite good. Do people go on there to resurrect their careers? Do they go on there? What was your reason to do it?
Well, I don't know really why they go on. I would say money is something, but not everybody gets the same money. The money, of course. Agents do negotiations for people, same as Strictly or whatever. And at the end of the day, I think people go on there because they want to be on the show. I think it's a fantastic thing. I remember when they said to me, you're going to do it, and you go and have your medical, and you come and you go, I'm going to Australia. They're going to put me in business class on a plane to Australia. My wife's going to come, and we're going to be over there, and I'm going to spend some time in the Versace hotel, which you see on the telly. Yeah. We're going to be on with Ant and Dec, and it's just a great prestigious thing to do. Why wouldn't anybody want it? I believe there are people who turn it down. I think Chris has turned it down. So I think people are on the show because, as you say, some people might think it might resurrect their career. I don't know if it's that kind of show. I don't know if it's career resurrecting. I've done fine since I did it, but equally I was doing fine before it. So I don't think it changed. And all these years on, it was 11 years ago that I did it. I don't think anybody really comes up to you and goes, oh yeah. Old Young was 2011. You did. They don't really remember it. All blends. I even get people on Twitter going, "Oh, are you watching Chris? Would you do the jungle?" I went, yeah,
I've done it.
It's like an X Factor winner, isn't it? Eventually, you go, "Oh, that one,
yeah,
which one?"
Yeah. Now, talking of your wife flying over, family members have pretty much all arrived now. I mean, when you're in the jungle, are you thinking constantly, I just can't wait to see my wife? Are you aware that because I know you do lose sense of time in there, don't you? Having spoken to many former contestants, you've no idea what day it is, what time it is. The producers are forced to or have to cover up their watches, so you lose all sense, don't you? But is it something constantly you're thinking, oh, I just can't wait I'm missing them, I want to see them?
Yeah, I think you do miss your wife, your husband, your partner, your relatives. You miss everybody because you're so unaware even your football team's results, that you just think, wow, I'm just so out of touch. What's going on? You know, is everyone okay? So you do really miss your family and your friends, and you think, you know, I do need to be back with them. But equally, you also realize that you're doing a show and you're being paid to do a job. So it's pretty similar to going away for a certain amount of time and, you know, getting on with your work. However, at that time, obviously in the evenings or so and so, when you finished your work, you can always call your family or FaceTime them or whatever. But here you can't. There's nothing. You know, you can talk to, when you're walking to a trial, there'll be this ranger in front of you who walks with you, and they don't even speak to you. You know, you can say, "How are you doing? You all right? Having a good day?" And they just go. There's nothing. You feel a real like, oh, that's not very nice. And then at one point, I remember he got a message in his ear when I was walking to a trial, and he went, held his ear and went, right, okay. And he went like that. Then he looked at me, and obviously there was some kind of delay in setting the trial up, so therefore we had to wait where we were before we got into the clearing with Ant and Dec. And he just looked at me and he went, flicked his fingers, pointed to a rock behind me, and went, sit. And he just went to me. He didn't say the word sit, but he just pointed down. So I just sat down and he went.
Why are they like that? Why are they like that? That's so weird.
I want to disorientate you and make it harder for you.
Okay.
Make you feel, yes. And then afterwards, I can also remember at the final party when they have that big party at the end in Coolingate, we were all, and this guy came up to me and said, how you doing? I went, oh, fine, thanks, fine. I said, well, what do you do on the show? Like that. And he went, oh, don't you know? I went, no, I don't. And he goes, and then he just like moved a pace or two away from me, and he said, see if you can work it out. I went, okay. And he went, how are you today, Pat? What's your day been like? And I realized he's one of the voices that spoke to us through the thing when we're sitting in the little hut. And he wanted to get feedback, and when you see all those cuts of people speaking and everything. So he was one of the people who were there. So you got to know his voice. Every day you would speak to these people who you got to know, but you didn't realize it was their faces till you saw them at the party and they used their voice that way.
That's really funny. That's really funny. Now, tomorrow we've got the first eviction, tomorrow night, UK time. When you're in there, are you aware that the eviction process is coming up? Or is it something that just goes out of your mind?
No, not really, because I think they brought this one forward anyway. I don't think it was meant to be tomorrow. I think it's been brought forward.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, actually. I'm not quite sure why they've done that, but they have, you're right. When you're in there, are you thinking, oh, I wonder if they're going to get evicted first? Or, you know, is anybody discussing who's going to get evicted first?
Not as I remember, no. I think that would be a bit hard on people. But equally, there'll be people in there who are very happy to be evicted because they've kind of done their time. They've done a few trials. They've, you know, enjoyed the experience. But now they're thinking, well, I could get a couple of weeks in that hotel. What's it like? Steak dinner tonight, you know?
Yeah. Are people ready to go by the time they do go?
Some people are, absolutely, yeah. Some people really have had enough and think, you know, I'm being paid, I've got my money, I've had the experience, and now I can have the best of both worlds and go and sit by the pool and have some great food.
And you then have to stay until the end of the series. You stay there.
Yeah,
oh, how lovely. Yeah. So there's something really nice about being voted off first then, isn't there? Because you can sit I don't think they're using the Versace Hotel this year, but you can sit by a nice pool, can't you, and have a lovely little holiday, a much deserved holiday.
Yeah, I heard it's not that hotel. I heard it's another one, but that's because we know Tiff, who's Chris's girlfriend, very well. And she's gone out there, but she's representing two people, of course, because she's Boy George's PA and works for Boy George. So there's two interests there for her.
Yeah, exactly. Two birds with one stone. Do you get paid less if you go out early?
Absolutely not. I think there's a rule that if you leave on your own accord within sort of a few days, then you know, then you don't get paid at all, I believe. But you know, I think the rules is that when you voted out, and that's the way it is. I mean, I wasn't actually voted out. I was in head-to-head challenge with Fatima Whitbread in my year, and there was no vote, but I ended up losing. It was 5-5, and I lost the final sort of challenge against her, and that was the day when she had a cockroach that went up her nose and ended up 20 minutes later coming out of her mouth.
Oh yeah, we all remember that moment, don't we? Gosh, do you ever speak to Fatima now? Do you keep in touch? Do you keep in touch with her?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I keep in touch with a number of people we met in
Nice.
our year. Fatima, I ended up going to her house without being invited, and that's because I was in a sketch with Keith Lemon when he chose her and her house for Through the Keyhole. And
Oh yes.
yeah, I was in a sketch as part of the clues to whose house it was. So ended up going to Fatima's house when she wasn't in, and she didn't know I was there. So it's quite funny. I wasn't, but I was there with Keith Lemon and everything. But we made our best friends when we did The Jungle. So I was in the year I was in with Mark Wright, and Mark's mum and dad met Monica, my wife, in a hotel, and they're now our best pals and have been for 11 years. So
Oh, how random. Mark Wright from Towie fame, of course, we're talking about there, aren't we? He's a nice
absolutely.
lad, isn't he?
Mark's lovely, yeah, and yeah, we're great friends with his mum and dad and Mark and all their families. They're our best pals, and we also recently were just on away with well, when she was in The Jungle, she was Jessica Jane Clement, but of course
Yeah.
she's married to Lee Stafford, the hairdresser. So Lee and Jess are great pals of ours. We were just with them in Ibiza just last month, and when I was working out there. So we see quite a few people and have made some very good lifelong friends from doing the show, which is another bonus of being asked to do it.
But also they're friends, I guess, that you wouldn't otherwise perhaps make, aren't they? I mean, I wouldn't put you and Mark Wright together. So how lovely that you get to meet all these different people from different walks of life, different ages, different backgrounds. It's lovely, isn't it?
Long may the people who are in there together be having teas and dinners with Matt Hancock when they all get home.
Do you know what? We almost got through the show without talking about Matt Hancock. It's been such a Matt Hancock week, hasn't it? It's nice. It's actually nice to things not to be completely focused on him, because it has been very much the Matt Hancock show, hasn't it?
Yeah. And that's why it's nice that other people are getting trials
Yeah.
now. You're seeing,
Yeah.
you know, people have realised, I think, that if you give Matt a trial, he's just going to do well, and that's just going to annoy the people who want to be sort of frustrated by not doing well or seeing him grimace at everything. And as much as he doesn't like some of the things he's had to do, he has got on with it because he's shown, listen, I come in this show, I'm going to do what this show's all about. And that's what I did in my time. You know, when I got trials, because people thought, oh, I don't know, I'm going to give him a trial. Or, you know, they did what they did, and then I did well. And then they stopped giving them to me.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because I mean, Matt just got stuck into everything and didn't let anything phase him, did he? Now, who do you think is going to win?
Gosh, that's a tricky one. I would say my wife and I really think that Jill has got great potential. She
Lovely,
doesn't
isn't
do
she?
it well. Very sweet, and she's you know, people love her for what she's done as a lioness, and yeah, so you know, good luck to Jill, but good luck to them all. Who knows? You never know.
Do you think Chris might be up for the first eviction, or do you think he's going to stay?
It's a tricky one because obviously you're not aware at this stage of anybody as to why they would be voted out, really. I don't think anybody ruffled too many feathers. Maybe you get voted for the first eviction because you just haven't got as much popularity as the other ones who are not getting voted. So I don't know. It's just like a numbers game. I think Chris wouldn't be voted for it because he's got a huge fan base.
Yes, that's very true.
Millions followers on social media, and Radio X listeners love him on breakfast, and these original Radio 1 listeners have gone with him and traveled with him over the years, and he's a very pleasant man. So I would hope that he's not, because I think that he's got a lot more to show, and I think if he gets some more trials, I think he's going to get better as he does them. So, you know, good luck to him, and I hope he stays in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, fingers crossed for Chris. He's been a trooper, hasn't he, the last couple of nights with his Bush Tucker trials. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.
Bye.